Okay, I've managed to take a pause and get some oxygen. And now we're going to talk about what's taken up all the oxygen, which is the ever circulating universe around the Vince McMahon scandal, which everybody is dealing with or giving their reactions to, or we're finding out more about as time goes on. And one of the things we found out, apparently, whoever at Endeavor, I'm a poet and don't know it, but my feet show it because they're long fellas. That's what Mama Cornette used to say. Whoever at Endeavor was making all these decisions, Ari Emanuel, potentially, was apparently convinced that Vince McMahon was indispensable to the WWE business because they insisted that he stay on as the executive chairman of TKO until his death, resignation, or incapacity.
Well,
At least two of those three things happened.
it may be less of them insisting on it and him insisting on it as part of a deal. Remember, he's the one who came back to put this thing together. It wasn't so that he would fade into the sunset. It was to try to set himself up.
But now the thing is, our boy Thurston Howell over at WrestleNomics, he's got the timeline on this where Endeavor made the offer for the merger to the WWE. Endeavor would own 57%, and WWE shareholders would own 57-43. WWE comes back and they say, we want it to be 49 for us and 51 for you. And that's when Endeavor proposed Vince as the executive chairman as the condition of giving the increase to 49-51 to the WWE. And that's why Vince would get to pick 5 of the 11 seats on the board. And, the Endeavor would get to pick 6, but now they've bumped it up to 13, and it's 6 for WWE and 7 for Endeavor. Pretty soon it'll probably be 22, but nevertheless, that's why the quote was Mr. McMahon's continued leadership would be critical to the value creation, driving Endeavor's desire to engage in the transaction.
That means they thought shareholders would lose their mind if they purchased WWE and Vince McMahon was not part of the deal.
Well, but in it they didn't know this shit then that has come out. And they still had to, they knew he was under some kind of several investigations. So they still had to put out that statement that Mr. McMahon could potentially be a liability or detrimental to our business or whatever with their filing, all that blah, blah, blah. But I think they thought that they bought the line that Vince had to be there, even though we've seen over the past couple of years that not only did he lose his mind, but that a lot of the talent was happier when he wasn't around because he'd lost his touch too, along with his mind. And maybe they just hadn't picked up on it and thought he was that valuable.
Again, or it was baked into the cake and they weren't going to say anything otherwise. They were only going to put him over. I mean, I've seen that happen. That's Clive Davis has experienced that a few times. He gets put over by people who can't stand him because he spends all the money. But Vince,
hey, don't jive about my man Clive.
All right, well, whatever you say, sir. But
we're tight.
Vince, again, he came back after leaving, not to run his company, but to sell his company. And he found the buyer who gave him everything he wanted. I would have to think all of this was part of that. It just so happens they had an out.
Death, incapacity, or resignation. And that apparently was what, who brought it to Vince now? It was Ari Emanuel and the other feller. What's his name? Goddamn, I've lost it.
I have an article here. I'm not exactly sure. I believe it would be
Nick Khan.
Mark Shapiro.
Oh, Shapiro. It wasn't Nick Khan.
No.
It was Ari Emanuel and Mark Shapiro that were the ones who went to Vince and said, well, the The jig is up, pal.
Well, here, I have it here. This is from the Hollywood Reporter article by Alex Weprin. If I go down a little bit, the week was supposed to be capped off January 27th at Tropicana Field in Tampa, where the company was to host one of its signature annual events, the Royal Rumble. But a bombshell lawsuit, followed by a fateful decision from a major sponsor, changed the course of the firm. By the time the Royal Rumble began, McMahon was gone from TKO seemingly for good, as it sought to distance itself from McMahon's alleged past transgressions, as it endeavored to make employees feel safe, and as it responded to an impact to the bottom line. Those concerns culminated on the evening of January 26th, when Emmanuel and TKO president and COO, Mark Shapiro, called McMahon and told him it would be in the best interest of the company for him to resign. He agreed and submitted his resignation, and that's when Nick Khan put out his quote that he will no longer have a role with TKO or WWE.
Boy, would you like to have a tape of that conversation?
He had to expect it, right?
Well, yeah, but still, and here's the thing: these are not wrestling people per se, where it didn't have the same gravitas probably to them it would to any of us. You've got to be the one to call and tell Vince McMahon he's got to get the fuck out of the WWE. A lot of people in the wrestling business may have been the ones to want to make that call, but I don't know if anybody's ever had the guts to. Certainly not the power to, but do you think they were even nice about it? Or did they say, Vince, Slim Jim just pulled out. We bought a goddamn pig in a poke. If you don't get the fuck out of here, we're all going to be up shit creek and your stock's going to be worth dick. What do you think?
According to this article, Slim Jim was the big thing, which I guess begs the question, if Slim Jim had not pulled out, if no sponsors had threatened to pull out or pulled out directly, would anything have changed just based off the articles and the lawsuit?
That's hard to say because I don't think there was a fucking chance that sponsors weren't going to start pulling out that quick.
And again, reminder, this is the week they signed the Netflix deal.
Yeah. And, I don't know what the paperwork looks like on that, where they could call them up and say, well, wait a minute, we changed our fucking mind because your boss was a serial head shitter, whatever. But it couldn't start the relationship off right. But anybody else, whether it be Slim Jim or any of these other sponsors, with all the federal investigation is still ongoing. They got Vince's phone, as you said. They don't know what else is going to come out. I think it was almost impossible that some sponsors were not going to, it was a weekend. By Monday, say, wait a minute, but Slim Jim had the goddamn sponsorship of the show that was going on the following day. So weekend or no, they were like, well, so I don't know if they would have ever been faced with a situation where that news came out, but nothing bad immediately happened, where they had to call Vince and say, fuck off.
And based on the quote from Netflix, which was, he's gone. This isn't a story. He's gone, whatever they said.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know if Netflix called and said, what the hell? And that's how they were reassured.
Yeah. Oh, he's gone already.
You don't have to say anything. He's already gone. We're already on the phone with Slim Jim getting him back.
I think that's pretty much probably what happened. And they had to tell Vince that, not only have you done all this for nothing, this big sale, you're about to kill your own company. Your shit's going to be worth nothing. Just get the fuck out of here.
Do you think we ever hear from him again? Does he do a big interview somewhere with some major media, person that will be sympathetic? Do you think, beyond the lawsuit, and he's going to be very careful because this should be the big one. Do you think we ever hear from Vince McMahon again? Do we ever hear him defend himself publicly? Yes.
It depends on who he gets to be his lawyers, because, public defense and under deposition, as we've seen with Trump, which this is so similar in so many ways, is two different things. Trump can go out and lie his ass off in interviews and press appearances and whatever, which he does for a daily habit. So could Vince, and he's probably going to be a lot better at it. Well, he used to be. Now he can't fucking speak. But they don't need to be testifying or under oath or under deposition because they'll fucking cross themselves up. And I think that at some point when Vince learns what all they know and what all they're going to try to do to him, unless his lawyers absolutely forbid him to speak publicly, he's going to want to do some kind of interview with something somewhere that will be seen. I'm not talking about goddamn, wrestle fucking dick or whatever. I'm talking about the Wall Street Journal or whatever.
That's where he belongs on that site, wrestle dick.
Well, he's going to want to defend himself, but he's going to want to know for sure what he's defending himself against first. And so I think it'll be a while, but it will eventually hear about it, especially if he's going to court. If he's especially if it's a criminal charge instead of civil, especially, I would think you can't hold him back from trying to defend himself unless he's old enough that he'll listen to lawyers at this point.
And we'll move on from this area of the Vince McMahon scandal in a moment, but from this article at least, and every source has a spin, so you don't know, it sounds like TKO were taken by surprise at exactly what these allegations were. They may not have thought it was this. I mean, most people didn't.
Yeah. Well, I don't think this would have been the first thing that popped up in most people's minds. And also, they knew there were investigations going on, and they knew we talked about on the Drive-Thru, the NDA that Vince got Janelle Grant to sign was drawn up independently of the company. He got one for the company, but didn't tell the company about it. So a lot of this stuff was executed trying to clean up shit before the sale or the merger or whatever they termed it. And it just started leaking out when the thing went through. And now they're finding out maybe Vince was a motivated seller in terms of not wasting too much time and letting grass grow on this thing because lips were moving. But